guys! Today we're going to show you how to modify your cable slip tips with Spectra. You can use this on different types of slip tips. Just make sure before you cut your cable that your slip tip can accept the Spectra.
Okay, so this method works well with Mori tips, where you can replace the Spectra that's already there. Won't necessarily work with the cable tip. If it has a ball right here on the other side, it will not work. So that's the Mori tip. We have two Riffe tips here. We have the newer version of the mini ice pick, slightly different than the older version on my left hand. I've already re-rigged this one with Spectra. This is what it's going to look like when it's a finished product. Cable works fine with some things, but with this 9/32 mini ice pick, it's going to be a little bit better to use Spectra rather than cable, in my opinion, because all this extra drag in the water. So for white sea bass, in my opinion, it's better to use Spectra. You will need a pair of wire cutters. You will need a threading wire. Staple wire is what's used here. You take it and you twist it, and it's going to go inside the Spectra core. It's going to come to a loop. You can see the loop here. What you're going to do is you're going to take one piece of Spectra. For the 9/32, I'm going to use 600 pound. Then for the bigger 5/16 shaft ice pick, I'm going to use 800 pound for larger fish. And because the drag will not affect it as much with a larger shaft. So you take this Spectra and the staple wire and you're going to feed it in. Now, before you do this, you need to take the Spectra, line it up, and it's going to need to be a little bit offset, about maybe 3 inches. You're going to stick the staple wire into the longer end of this. Okay? You're going to feed it all the way up until this part is about 15 inches down. Okay? This can be a little bit tedious, but be patient. You will get it done. Sometimes you have to fold this up a little bit. Not fold it, but scrunch it up rather. The tip's going to want to keep popping out on you here because this is hollow Spectra. However, you can just pull it right back out and push it in. If you screw this up, don't worry about it. You can practice this over and over again all day because it's not a permanent knot. Basically, you're back braiding here. You're going to go all the way up to the end where you made the bend, and then you're going to take that loop that you made with the staple wire and it's going to come out. You're going to stick the Spectra back inside that loop and pull it through itself. Okay, so I have the mini ice pick here. This is the one I'm modifying with the Spectra currently. You will need, before you cut your cable, know that you need a slide ring like this. Okay? You cannot use the old style Riffe slide ring where you have a little loop right here on top of it and re-rig it with Spectra. It just doesn't work, so you will have to buy a new slide ring if you have the older version. Newer ones convert well. It's crazy to do this because I just bought this today, but I'm going to cut this cable right off. Be careful, cable's sharp, little pieces go everywhere. So cover it with your hand when you do it. What you will need to do is take the Spectra. This is the other reason I use a smaller pound test. And you're going to need to feed it through this loop here. Sometimes it can be challenging. Get it wet. Sometimes you'll need some pliers, so have some needle nose pliers handy. Also, if it's difficult with the Mori tips, which is definitely more difficult, you will need to sometimes take the staple wire and use that loop and pull it through itself. You can get parts of the Spectra through, but not the entire thing goes through sometimes. At the end of this, what I'll do is I'll take this with a blowtorch. It's another optional thing because the Spectra doesn't like to burn with a normal candle or a normal flame, but a blowtorch is a good addition. You can find one for very cheap at Harbor Freight. So I've got the staple wire and the Spectra. We're going to go ahead and pull this down. I'm going to continue where I left off. It's going to be about like that. Okay. You're going to feed this all the way up until it gets to the loop on the ice pick tip. One of the main reasons, other than the fact that Spectra doesn't have the same drag that cable does, one of the main reasons that I like to use it is because sea bass have very soft flesh and the cable will slice right through it like a knife. Even if you don't lose the fish, sometimes it will cost you a fillet. Okay, so I've got this about where I want it. It needs to be on the left side, the side without the staple wire. It needs to be shorter than the other side. Alright, now it's exaggerated a bit because this side's scrunched up, so it's whenever you pull it down, it's going to pull down and it's going to be a little bit longer. You're going to want this side, the side with the staple wire, to pull over the other side. Okay? So you take the loop, you stick it out here, it comes right out very, very easily. You take your other side without the staple wire in it, and you stick it through the loop. Sometimes it can be difficult if you haven't burned it yet, but I don't like to burn it until the very end. You don't want to pull it all the way through, but you want to give yourself enough to where it's not going to release the loop when you're pulling it back through the Spectra. It helps to bunch this up. When you bunch it up, it creates a larger core, a thicker diameter core, and it's going to allow you to pull this through with more ease. I'm going to get to the base of it, get a hold of the base, and pull. It's going to pull through. Sometimes it will slip. If it slips, no problem. You can just redo the whole thing. It's very simple. You'll take it and slowly pull it through. Now the end will come all the way out. However, when it comes all the way out, I'm going to put the staple wire down. Now, you can see it looks like this. This end is going to go over the end of this, and we're going to, before doing that, make sure that the tip has a very tight loop here. Okay, so it's a little bit loose right there. That can maybe catch on something. You go to the base here before you let it pull over itself, and you tighten it up. Tighten it up as best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then you go up toward the base, and you simply smooth it out. Nice and easy. Now you'll see, if you look closely, very closely, here it is slightly thicker than here. That's because it's twice as strong. 600 pound, you get 1200 pound Spectra. You're going to want to tie a knot on this side, the thicker side. That way it can't pull back through. Not that it would, because it's a pretty long loop. Before you do this, you're going to need to stick the slide ring, which is still attached to the cable here. This is the slide ring. You're going to need to stick that on there before you tie a knot. So once again, be careful with the cable. Occasionally this gets a little too frayed to work with, so it can be difficult. It helps to get the Spectra a little bit wet, just like any other rope. You're going to want to stick it through here. Now, when you have problems with it, like I frequently do in changing slip tips, just use the staple wire and pull it back through itself, or burn it. I'm going to do that now. Now, if you look here, I've taken the staple wire, I've stuck it through the slide ring, protrudes from this side, I put the Spectra inside of itself, or inside of the loop rather, and then I'm going to pull it through. There it is. So, like I said, you're going to need to take this, pull it up onto here. This is where it's going to slide. It's a little bit tight, but don't worry, it's going to loosen up. It's going to pull through whenever you shoot a big fish. And that's all we're after with the slip tip. So, you take it, I do a simple knot, just one loop. It's not going to go anywhere. This is Spectra. It's going to bury into itself, and it's going to be permanent. But if you ever need to take it off, you can simply take it off. You don't have to cut it. You take it, as you can see, you'll take the slide ring, the loop goes to the knot, or the slide ring goes through the knot, it will not come through it, ever. It's as simple as that. You will not have a problem. You'll love it. It sits very flush. And that's the finished product. So here is the Riffe Mini Ice Pick tip. It's a very good tip. It's done up with the Spectra now. It's going to be really nice and low profile. Riffe cuts these little grooves here in the Spectra, or in the Ice Pick, and that Spectra sits really nice in it, rather than having a cable loop and a crimp, and then also at the base you have another crimp, and then you also have a little ring with a piece of Spectra attached, which is very useful for getting the slip tip out of the fish. However, in this case, it's more important to me for my shaft to be traveling at a higher velocity. So here it is, comes right off, very simple. The slide ring is here. Another little added tip, this is straight from Maury himself. We have a little electrical tape. I put it right at the end of the spear gun. This is going to prevent the slide ring from going back, and it's going to allow the tip to toggle whether or not this slide ring gets a scale stuck under it, because they have been known to do that. So just a little added thing. The knot comes down there, you tuck this into the bands, you're ready to go. Good luck.